Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Harrison and today we will be discussing Agile project management in my presentation. So this is for Envisioning Innovation and Creativity class. Let's get started. So what is Agile? There is the Agile way and then there is the traditional way. But many organizations like Apple, Google, IBM, they do things differently. And these firms constitute of what has been called the creative economy. They have shifted the goal of the entire organization from maximizing the shareholder value to actually delighting the customer. As Gerson discussed that, and I quote, the role of organization as employers will continue as the need for speed and innovation trumps processes efficiency in the digital economy. So these organizations, which all the management layers adopt the philosophy that customer value is first. They're agile-friendly environments, and in such firms, management practices at the team level like Agile become self-evident. Making money becomes the result, but it's not the actual goal or the intent. In contradiction, as the example of Apple and Google show, the approach can be highly profitable for a company. Let's take a look at Agile development. So in my thesis, I state, while the drawback of Agile development is that most people do not understand what it means to be Agile. However, with globalization, companies must quickly adapt by changing the ways they manage and organize their businesses because increased competitive pressures related to technological development prevent social interactions, and businesses need to be experiencing continuous rapid change to remain successful. Creativity and innovation. Agile theory and practice. Gist and Mitchell discussed the creative self concept derived from a social cognitive theory. So this theory refers to, and I quote, to belief in one's capabilities to mobilize the motivation, cognitive resource, and courses of actions needed to meet the given situational demands. So this relates to agility theories in three main parts: creativity, innovation, and agility. There's one more part to it around how to measure employees' creativity and innovation. So employers today still have a hard time and find it challenging to figure out how to measure that. However, let's define creativity. So by definition, it mentions the relationship of personal intellectual characters who demonstrate the willingness to spend a lot of time in engaging in creative process when freedom of thinking is given by the employer, as Gluck, Ernst, and Unger state. But brainstorming is a huge part of creativity. So you're having the freedom to come up with many ideas, including crazy ones. So asking questions usually leads to drive innovation, especially if you pose open-ended questions. These kind of questions lead to innovative responses, and this in turn has stronger solutions. Creativity and innovations go hand in hand, but what sets them apart? While creativity is the idea of something, innovation implements that idea. Agility methods can be applied to a project management related issue as Agile facilitates teamwork in a collaborative environment. So originally Agile methodology practices were meant for software development, but soon the cross-functional teams required to develop the project further internally and applied these principles past software into project management. And moving on, envisioning change. Agility in its workplace is the way of the future. The original Agile manifesto was set up by 17 professionals back in 2001 for an Agile software company. The manifest was adopted by many developers and software organizations along with outside of the IT world. The new Agile principles have opened doors and provided many innovative ways of product development. The reason that many companies outside of IT environment are adapting Agile methodology is because they're happening at a high frequency due to technology, as Holkunder, Ari, Lockhart, Griffith, and Munch state. And they discuss innovations. It's like a cloud-based service. Big data, digitalizations are coming into many markets, and they spread all kinds of products. By adapting the Agile development method, it is promising a solution that would be able to keep pace with the fast progress. Have brought value and success in developing software and their original values and principle, again discussed by Holkunder, Ari, Lockhart, Griffith, and Munch. So there are always skeptics, and on the flip side, they say it symbolizes efforts of more of a marketing stunt to sell development actions. But looking further, at Agile methods, there are used by various organizations. And there are various methods like ASD, which is Adaptive Software Company, Crystal, FDD, which is Feature Driven Development, and Scrum are one of the most common ones. And we're going to focus more on Scrum technique because it applies to project management. And the Scrum technique is not suited for software at all. It's actually used more for various business projects. So let's define Scrum. There are three main layers of Scrum. One is the product owner, PO, Scrum Master, and the Scrum team. But the logic behind Scrum is that it takes a project and separates them into what they call sprints. And each sprint has a specific period set aside of requirements to get ready for a possible delivery. So what makes the Scrum logic are the core activities, the artifacts, the roles that are assigned per suitable practice. Like a daily Scrum, there are quick meetings where the core activities are described during the sprint. The artifacts represent the sprint's backlog that defines all the tasks that have yet to be met and have not been implemented in the project. So the three main roles that we just discussed of a PO, who is just a traditional manager for the function and in which the team is located at. But the purpose of the product owner is to provide information about what the expected outcome of the project is, and also what order the different outcomes shall be dealt with. The Scrum Master traditionally is just he is a or she a leader or a project manager for a Scrum team. There are some functionalities of the SM, but mostly is to provide information. Then there's also the Scrum team, and they traditionally are a cross-functional team, and it includes expertise and knowledge that come from different areas. The most common size of Scrum team is 5 to 10 people, but all the members work on one project full-time. The team is supposed to be self-organized, and the leadership within the team can vary depending on the needs and objectives of the specific sprint. And this is all also outlined by Holkunder, Ari, Lockhart, Griffin, and Munch. Let's move on to the Scrum storyboard. So in Scrum, what is used is called the storyboard, and it provides a viewer a high-level graphic of the current project. And also gives you a quick sense of what needs to be completed. So the team, so long they maintain the storyboard with current information, it gives you really great transparency. And maintaining that storyboard, not only does it give the product owner a good understanding of the status, but the benefits is the visual aid of the project. It displays the sequence and how the user story interconnects. So the storyboard can be maintained in digital or physical form. Once the project is then divided into suitable units, Law and Lardouchere discuss how versatile the storyboard can be. So you can divide into more columns to add detail or keep it limited. So the team is limited on how many in-progress items they are working on. But as Law and Lardouchere stated that some organizations will even clear out a storyboard after completing several sprints and they will just start it over again. But the backlog defines the requirements of the projects to keep the goals on track and follow through the sprint. And to manage it well, the work in progress or new tasks should only be open once the previous ones were complete and delivered. So this helps visualize the workflow and ensures that there's enough lead time to finish each item, and ultimately the goal is the project. Moving on in proposing a new direction. So to remain competitive in the modern industry, innovativeness and creativeness are essential part of the organizational stride towards success. So for the company to implement a process successfully of a new and upcoming product and service, there's always a dependency on generating better ideas. Not only generating the idea, but also to develop the idea into something. There are ways to understand the creative potential of organizations. And there's a tool that's called Keys, which is demonstrated by Amabel. It's a questionnaire that looks at the creative environment. And the results of the research from Amabel level is that the dimensions that play the most critical role in influencing creative behaviors of projects are challenge, organizational encouragement, work group resource, supervisory, organizational impairments, as it's outlining in this questionnaire. It's also mentioned that this is a tool suitable to use with any level of organization, so long that they're involved are based in the same environmental context within the Scrum team. So additional assessment tools such as interviews and questions can be used in combinations with these keys to strengthen the results, to test the environment for the creative climate. Moving on to fostering a growth only shows positive results. And the main contributors to the levels of quality are attributed to agile organization culture, and the type of environment fosters cohesion in teams and demonstrates improvement of output per Hidalgo. So further studies suggest that the methods used that they bring the gap between industry and academia. Also, there are benefits, as Hidalgo discusses, that the methods can be used on larger scale projects. The challenges, there are also challenges, and they are around cooperation between disciplines, shared language, uncertainty about methods and outcome, difficulty coordinating activities, and the importance of group dynamic, and also critical aspects of trust within the group. So as you see, everything positive, there's got to be a negative. Continuing with fostering the growth mindset, there are also ethical concerns of which being that working together in a Scrum team, it removes layers of management. And management sometimes may feel that there are certain persons that are just not responsible enough to make the decision. So they have lack of trust in that person and ability to execute, and that will hinder that person in getting onto any other projects. There's also an ethical concern around the capacity of imbalance in the market due to competition, and that create an issue for the customers, because if there's a competitive imbalance, that will increase the market share and increase the price for the customer, which have long-term adverse effect. Godfrey further discusses the competition to have an effective regulatory to support the culture competition, and also objectives of the competition are widely understood. It continues to say that an effective competition policy allows innovative new entrants as an important role in development process and promotes growth. And the vested interest that opposes reforms and fair competition have to be overcome. An open media and informed judiciary are needed in competition policy and are also to be fully effective. So to further overcome any ethical concern in management system, the organization to keep a very good balance. There's also something that's an assessment called Framework 29. It's a method that developing countries and design a policy to meet those countries' needs. Moving on to my conclusion, I want to restate my philosophy of creativity and innovation is to be an active participant, but gaining knowledge, being mindful, and having a clear mind. And do not be afraid of failure, since success is built on confidence and motivation. So always be authentic. So let's conclude in terms of what is agility. It just correlates to a more manageable flow with faster response time and executing or rolling out smaller scale projects. In other words, being nimble. In project management, being agile means being adaptive in creating products and services. There are shortcomings in the traditional waterfall models that delay timelines in execution. There are significant demand and an ever-growing environment that has a higher expectations for organizations to adapt a faster model of effective output. Outside of the software development, their most common framework for agility project management is Scrum. So it's one of the most popular and adaptive methods that are flexible and deliver value quickly within a project. Scrum makes sure that there's a crucial level of transparency and communication. This also creates a good environment for collective accountability and progress. So the key strength in Scrum is to use cross-functional teams, independent organizing, and empowering teams. They can divide their work into shorter sprints. Ethical business practices are also an essential key for future globalization. To be effective, like Godfrey said and stated, there is a creative ways on finding where significant barriers to competition exist is by looking at the situation and the approach taken in the competition assessment framework. This is the approach that can help policymakers in developing countries. This concludes my presentation. We'll follow with the reference pages, but it'll run out of time to read through all of them. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation. It was packed with a lot of information, but it was something that I truly enjoyed. Thank you again, and thank you again for the class. I hope you have a wonderful night.